Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle Earth here, and today we're talking about which damage dealer is best between these two guys at the top of my screen. We have Dain right here and Beorn. Now, arguably, not really arguably, these are the best two damage dealers in the game. So honestly, a lot of people try to go for both of them, but if you're brand new to the game, if you're free to play, you might be picking one to focus on for a while to figure out who you can get going to at least really improve your lineup. So I want to talk about which one I think is better, or at least some pros and cons of both of them. That'll be coming up in just 1 second. Now, as always, let me know what you guys think, because I do think these guys are both fantastic, and it could come down to personal preference, but I want to hear what you guys think. We're going to rank them on 4 different categories, looking at their free-to-play friendliness, their effectiveness as a damage dealer, their relic, as well as their troop flexibility. So we're going to rank those 4 categories to see if one makes more sense. But again, the point of this video is to educate you on both of them. We'll have build guides down in the description below, so check those out if you want to. But let's get into the video. Now, if you are currently spending in Rise to War, this is the affiliate link I have down in the description below. It is the top-up link to the top-up center. This is through NetEase. They do this for all their games, so it's a pretty normal thing for them. But long story short, you can use this website to log into your account and make purchases on your account just like you would if you were in-game and you went to the gym area, you bought gems, you bought maths, everything you see here is available on that store. The kicker is it's cheaper in some parts of the world, so check it out if you haven't already. At least see if you can save yourself some money, and it supports the channel, so it's kind of a win-win. So consider using the top-up link if you are spending in the game. If you're not spending, like I always say, obviously it doesn't apply. Hit the like button and subscribe to help the channel out, but let's get into the actual builds now. Now, like I said, we will have build guides for both these guys down below, so check those out if you want. But we're going to start with Dain in no particular order here, breaking down kind of everything about his kit. Now, first of all, you're going to want Dain at R5 minimum to really get the most effectiveness out of him. He's going to start out with his Durance Blood tree. You want this first because you want his additional 10% damage for 3 rounds. We're going to start with Durance Blood. We're then going to max out King Under the Mountain, which is also going to give us an additional 10% instance of damage. And our extra points are going to go into Ironfoot. So Dain, you really want at R5, but technically he can go all the way to Zenith 6. Zenith 6 would let you max out all these trees, and that's kind of what a lot of people push Dains to. So he's definitely not a super free-to-play commander in the sense that, you know, you don't need anything to run him, but he can be run at 5 very effectively, but he does get better as you keep going. Now, as far as gear go, I won't spend too much time on these guys because they're both physical damage dealers. So if you've watched any videos recently, you've probably heard me talk about we want commander attack as well as commander damage. Those are the 2 stats that are going to boost his physical damage. So the gear we're going to look at, as you'll see on the screen right now, all these gears are kind of the best in slot gold, first, second options, plus the best in slot purple option that are going to boost commander damage as well as commander attack. So look for those types of gear if you can. Again, if you're a brand new player using greens and blues, totally fine. Just find anything you can with commander attack and kind of roll from there. Now, as far as set effects go, we want to look for things like perseverance, might, and sharp blade, depending on the level of your count. What I always tell people is if you are newer, if you have a less geared up commander for physical damage, you want sharp blade because it's going to give you attack plus down 20 for your formation. So right now, my Dain has 174 extra attack. So an extra 20 on top of that is really not that significant. However, if I'm running all blue gear, an extra 20 is going to make up a lot more and be more than that percent would be worth. So for myself on a higher end account, if you're around, I say roughly the 150 mark or higher for attack, I would look at percent-based effects like perseverance and might. If you are newer, if you're running blues, greens, even purples, sharp blade is a fantastic option in that actual chunk. That just straight 20 is very, very good. Now onto the relic. Dain has a fantastic relic that will be getting a pass from me. Again, we did a video the other day talking about relics. If you haven't seen that, check it out because these are very complicated. It's like the highest risk reward thing in the game. So please invest in relics responsibly if you are using them. Again, if it's a good commander, these base stats are great. Like adding any stats to a commander is great, but they're expensive just to do that. So we want to look at their effect to see if it's worth doing. Dain says increase physical damage dealt by this commander's formation by 0.5% when this formation receives damage, stacks up to 5 times. So this is going to go up to 15% extra damage once it stacks all the way up. Again, it's increasing physical damage, which if you look at all his skills, we're doing physical damage, physical damage, physical damage. So his relic goes right in line with what he's doing. He's one of the best commanders in the game. It's absolutely a pass for the Crimson Blade. Now, as far as troops, we're going to go with our safe, cost-effective option as always. So we're going to suggest Guardians. They are cheap. They're affordable. They have high HP and high defense, allowing Dain to just be there for as long as possible and do as much damage as possible. Now looking at Beorn. Beorn is, again, one of the other very meta physical damage dealers, so he's a fantastic one. So let's look at his skill build next. Now for Beorn, we are going to want him at least R3. Again, he's similar to Dain, where he can go up to Zenith 6, and a lot of people try and push that far. but he is more usable at respect 3, whereas Dain needs 5. Now, if you're a big whale, 3 to 5 is not a big deal, but if you're brand new, just unlocking these guys takes forever. So you're probably thinking, I want to use this guy right away. And Beorn is, in my opinion, more usable at respect 3 because, first of all, we're going to go into his Anduin Vale Chieftain first. The reason we do that is we want these bleeds to go out first, so everything else kind of triggers those bleeds and triggers more damage. So we want the R3 first, followed by Skin Changer. Then lastly, we're going to go into Enemy of the Orc. So again, we're using all of them. We want the R5, so you want it as soon as possible for extra points. But what a lot of people run, the kind of main bulk of the build, is going to be Anduin Vale Chieftain, followed by Skin Changer. Now, I have mentioned it, so I'll say this here. It could depend on if you're in role play and who you're fighting, but at his max level on his Enemy of the Orcs, which if you're running the build correctly, or at least what most people would say, you would need a Zenith 6 Beorn to do this, but it deals an additional 50% extra damage to orcs. So there could be circumstances where if you're an RP, you're fighting a faction that's going to be using more orcs, this could become more valuable because of that huge damage buff. And this is why I suggest not using crushers if you're in a competitive or meta server, because if people have Z6 Beorns and they're running this, you could get smoked. So again, I would run the R3, the R1, just like you see on the sheet, which will be down below, then the R5, but use your kind of discretion here. If you're in a server, you feel like this is more valuable, but the better damage build is a Skin Changer before the R5. Now, just like Dain, Beorn, as you saw, is a physical damage dealer, so we want as much commander attack and commander damage as possible. So let me put the sheet back on the screen really quickly, just in case you missed it. It's the exact same gear setup. It's just all the best physical damage gear in the game. And looking at set effects, like I said, the lower your attack for physical damage dealers, the more valuable Sharp Blade becomes. So in this build, if this is you just got your Beorn unlocked, maybe you got some blue gear, maybe some purples are sprinkled in there. Mine's around 50 right now. So that additional 20 on top of the 50, which at least will take place once the battle starts, that 20 is a big chunk of what I have right now. However, if we're more looking like this with this kind of gold stuff, we want to go with percent-based effects. So again, Perseverance, Might, those are our good percent-based effects for damage dealers. And then Sharp Blade's a great option, especially if you're a little bit lower on the attack. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Use green gear, use blue gear, whatever it is, but just find the build that works for you and kind of improve it over time. Now, as far as the relic for Beorn goes, it's going to, in quick summary, get a fail for me. It's not a bad relic, and honestly, Beorn is so meta and so dominant as a damage dealer that the base stats, I do think, make it worth it. So if you're on the really whaled in, I think a lot of people run Beorn. So again, great base stats, but the actual effect here is during combat, increase commander's attack by 15. So that's a fully refined relic. At base, when you first get it, it's increased commander's attack by 2.5. And then if the enemy army includes orcs, attack increases by an additional 1.6. So with a fully refined relic, if you're facing orcs, you get an extra 25 attack. Now, is that going to hurt on top of commander attack from the relic, on top of whatever gear you have on? No. And you could potentially have a Beorn that has the highest attack in the game. However, the more you move on, if you're at the place of investing in relics, usually, like we talk about just with gear, we want percent-based stuff. So to me, this is just not enough to justify fully refining it. Again, a lot of people use it just for the stats and strengthen it, but to me, just on the quick look, it's going to get a fail. And just like Dain and pretty much everyone we're running, we're going to suggest Guardians. Again, bulky, HP high, defense high. You've heard it probably 100 times by now. Guardians are the way to go. If you're fighting a lot, especially, it's easy to keep up with building Guardians. Now, for any of these commanders we're talking about, if you want more speed or if you want a heavier HP troop, Eagles and Felbies can be a great option. They do have some difficulties with sieging, so bear that in mind. But if you have a lot more resources, maybe you're just getting on a few times a day, Eagles and Felbies can be fantastic, but Guardians are the safe bet and the one that I'm going to suggest for Beorn as well as Dain. All right, so which one is better? Who should you choose? Again, it's probably going to be pretty close. I want to put the categories up on the screen. So again, we have effectiveness as a damage dealer, we have free-to-play friendliness, we have their relic, and we have troop flexibility. First of all, as far as effectiveness goes as a damage dealer, it is close. It's very close, but I think it's going to go to Dain. Let me know if you disagree, because I have seen some Beorns hitting ridiculously hard, and in the right situations, especially if you're using the R5, you hit orcs, it's kind of crazy. So this could be a tie. It could go either way. I'm going to just slightly give the edge to Dain, but bear in mind, this is very, very close for their effectiveness as a damage dealer. Now, as far as free-to-play friendliness goes, I'm going to give the point to Beorn. Beorn is more usable, in my opinion, at Respect 3 than Dain. Now, again, they both want Respect 5. They both really want Zenith 6, but starting out, if you don't have a ton of points, you're really just going to be going into Anduin Vale Chieftain and then Skin Changer. So if you have him at 3, you're getting a lot of what his build's going to do. So as far as Dain goes, he really does want his R5, which is a little bit more expensive. So We're talking a 2-level respect difference, so it's not the end of the world. But again, if you're a new player, that 2 levels could take you a whole season. So I'm going to give the edge to Dain for free to play, or sorry, Beorn for free to play friendliness. It's just barely. So just like the other one, they're kind of close, but we're going to say the edge goes to Beorn. Now, as far as Relic goes, again, if you watched the whole video, we did give Dain's a pass and Beorn's a fail. So without getting into it, we're going to say the point for Relic goes to Dain. He's a much better Relic that goes along with his kit, a lot better in my opinion. Now, as far as troop flexibility goes, they both are suggesting, or I'm suggesting the same troops for both of them. They could run other builds. You know, Dain could run dwarves. That's not the build we're talking about. It's not their best build. So there are no troop restrictions on either of them that would really make them less viable depending on where you play or how you like to play or whatever. So they're going to get a tie in the last category in their troop flexibleness. So just barely, it's going to go to Dain. Again, we have a tie. We have two that are very close. I think the only clear defining point that Dain has that is better for me is the Relic. But honestly, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know about these guys. Again, we've been doing a lot of new content for new players. And while these are mythic commanders, I understand that. The goal is just to keep educating you guys on what commanders are usable in the game so you can work on them long term. We've talked about Gandalf White. We've talked about Sauron. These are really the last two pieces of the really meta formation puzzle. Now, in my humble opinion, the meta is very narrow. It's kind of stale. I hope they update other commanders so there are more viable options. But right now, Gandalf the White, Sauron, and both these guys we're talking about today, they're kind of the best commanders in the game. So I want to make sure everyone knows how to properly build them. So you can choose if you want to go for them. If you don't want to, you want to run someone else, you want to run off meta, that's fine too. But I just want you guys to have the correct information. So that will do it for this comparison video on Dain and Beorn. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.